How silence can supercharge your mind. It was midnight in a city that never seemed to stop. The streetlights blinked, flickering weakly over a nearly empty street, and the distant hum of passing cars faded into the background like a forgotten memory. Inside a small apartment, there was only one sound, the steady ticking of a clock. In this silence, a man was about to discover something that would change his life. His name was Aran. For as long as he could remember, his life had been dictated by noise, a constant buzz, voices, traffic, notifications. His mind, always filled with distractions, never had a chance to rest. But tonight, something was different. For the first time in years, he found himself alone in his apartment. No distractions, no noise, just silence. At first, it felt foreign, almost uncomfortable. Aran was used to the chaos. It was all he had known. But as the stillness grew deeper, something unexpected began to happen. He closed his eyes, surrendered to the quiet, and felt it seep into him. The weight of it was almost tangible, pressing down on him like a heavy, invisible hand. The absence of noise felt oddly present. He tried to shake it off, but there was no denying it. The silence was doing something to him. It wasn't just the absence of sound. It was as if the silence was a force in itself, waiting to reveal something, to unearth something within him. Aran allowed himself to lean into it. Just for a few minutes, no screens, no phone, no distractions, just this. At first, his thoughts were vague and scattered, memories he hadn't revisited in years. But as the minutes passed, those thoughts grew sharper, clearer. They began to evolve into questions he had never dared to ask himself, truths he had buried under layers of noise, thoughts that had always been there, waiting to be acknowledged. Suddenly, they came flooding to the surface, each one like a ripple disturbing the stillness of a pond. In that moment, Aran realized something startling. He had been running from his own mind. The constant noise had been his escape, his shield against the chaos inside. But in the silence, he was confronted with the truth he had avoided for so long. His mind began to clear. It was as though the clutter of his thoughts had been lifted, leaving behind a sense of profound clarity. The fog was gone. His breath became steady, his heartbeat slowing. The turmoil that had once controlled him seemed to dissolve, leaving only peace. And then, in the deepest part of the silence, Aran heard something. A voice. Faint, almost imperceptible. It wasn't an external voice. It wasn't a thought he had conjured. It was the quiet wisdom hidden beneath the noise, something he had ignored for years. It whispered to him, simple but profound, "You've been running all this time." That was it. A simple realization, but one that shifted everything. Aran had been so consumed by the chaos around him that he never realized he had been running from himself. The silence, the stillness, this was the key to unlocking the hidden truths within. In that moment, Aran understood. Silence wasn't just the absence of sound. It was the presence of something greater. It was the space where answers could emerge, where clarity could arise from the depths of his mind. And now, he was finally ready to listen. The question came to him like a bolt from the blue, reverberating in his chest with a force he couldn't explain. Why did you wait so long? The simplicity of the question stunned him, but its impact was overwhelming. In that moment, Aran felt something shift within him. It was like the fog that had clouded his mind for years was suddenly lifted, and he was seeing everything with a clarity he had never known. He had spent so much of his life running from his own thoughts, avoiding the stillness, drowning in the noise. The world had been his escape, the noise his shield, keeping him from confronting the truths buried deep inside. But now, in this moment of profound silence, he wasn't running anymore. He was standing face to face with himself, and for the first time in his life, he could hear his own thoughts clearly. He could feel them, each one a thread unraveling the complicated knot of his life. It was like a veil had been lifted, and the answers that had always eluded him were now within reach. For so long, Aran had believed silence was an absence, a void. But in this room, in this stillness, he realized it wasn't empty at all. It was a presence filled with power, with clarity, with potential. The silence had become a bridge, a gateway into something deeper, something real. It wasn't just a lack of sound, it was the space where his mind could finally breathe, where his thoughts could be heard without distraction. Every breath he took felt like a step deeper into his own consciousness. Each passing second seemed to peel away the layers of busyness and noise that had clouded his mind for so long. With every moment that passed, Aaron's understanding grew stronger, clearer. Silence, he now realized, was not just a tool for peace or rest. It was the key to unlocking something far greater. It was the key to his own mind, the most powerful tool he had at his disposal. In the silence, Aaron found a clarity he never thought possible. It was a clarity that had eluded him in the chaos of his daily life, a clarity that he had never even known to seek. It was like a light shining through a crack in the darkness, revealing a truth he hadn't been ready to face. But now, in the absence of noise, in the embrace of stillness, he could see it all. Every thought, every feeling, every unspoken truth about himself. It was all there, waiting for him to recognize it. As the minutes ticked by, the realization deepened. Silence wasn't empty. It wasn't a gap to be filled, a void to be avoided. It was full of answers, full of potential, full of wisdom waiting to be uncovered. Every second in the stillness was a lesson, every breath an invitation to dive deeper into the ocean of his own mind. Aaron had unknowingly cracked open a door to a part of himself he had never known existed, and now he was standing at the threshold of something new, something transformative. In that moment, a profound understanding took root within him. Silence wasn't just the absence of noise, it was the presence of something far greater. It was the space where wisdom could emerge, where true understanding could flourish. The noise of the world, the endless distractions, had kept him from seeing it. But now, with nothing but silence around him, he understood. Silence was not a barrier. It was a doorway to unlocking the true power of his mind. But as Aaron opened his eyes and glanced around the quiet room, something else struck him. How many others were out there just like him? How many people were living in a constant state of noise, running from the very thing that could unlock their greatest potential? How many were avoiding silence, not realizing that in its depth lay a treasure trove of clarity, wisdom, and untapped power? The thought hit him hard. For so long, he had been avoiding the one thing that could set him free, the one thing that could open the doors to his true self. But now he saw it so clearly. The key wasn't just in being silent, it was in knowing how to embrace it. To step into the quiet and allow it to do its work, to listen without fear, without resistance, to let go of the distractions and the noise and finally give himself the time and space to hear his own thoughts. The world, Aaron realized, had forgotten this. The ceaseless pace of modern life, the constant need for input and stimulation, had made silence a foreign concept. People were afraid of it. They filled their lives with noise because it kept them from facing the uncomfortable truths within. But what if? Just what if? The answer to every challenge he had faced and would face lay not in the noise, but in the silence. The question lingered in his mind like a soft whisper. Could silence be the missing link? Could it truly supercharge his mind, unlocking parts of him he didn't even know existed? Could it open doors to a version of himself he had only ever dreamed of? As the silence stretched on, Aaron knew one thing for certain. He had only just begun to understand what silence could offer. He had only just begun to tap into its power, and he was no longer willing to let it slip through his fingers. He wasn't going to let the noise pull him away from this newfound understanding. Now he understood. Silence wasn't something to be feared. It was something to be embraced. It was the key to unlocking the deepest, most profound parts of the mind. And for the first time in his life, Aaron was ready to listen. What about you? Have you ever truly allowed yourself to embrace the silence? To let go of the noise that surrounds you and hear the voice inside? What could you discover if you gave yourself the time and space to listen? The answer might be waiting for you in the stillness.